Hello, welcome to the Lately in PHP podcast. This is episode 54, and this time I have here with me the great Cesar Rodas that returned from a long journey to somewhere he was making money, I guess. Hello, Cesar, how are you doing?
Hello, it's good to be back.
Yeah, that's great. Because you always have good insights about the PHP internals. And today we have lots of PHP internal matters to talk about as usual. But first, let me start to mention this month we have our Hangout podcast is being sponsored by MailChimp, specifically by their product Mandrill. Let me uh, share the screen here so people can know more about this great product. Okay, sharing the screen here. If else lets me. Well, for those that are not familiar, Mandrill is a great product that is was developed by MailChimp. I suppose great part of the PHP developers already know MailChimp, that is being used to send messages to mailing lists, newsletters, manage the registrations, and do all things without great complication. But since some time ago, they have a new product more target to developers, which is called Mandrill, and they have this product that it is targeted to for something that I don't know if everybody is familiar, which is called transaction emails. For instance, if um, you need to send messages to your site users to, for instance, password recovery messages, registration confirmation messages, and reports, and so those are what are called the transaction emails. And MailChimp actually has this product called Mandrill that is targeted specifically to help businesses to send transaction emails with the great deliverability. Deliverability is a concept that defines the chances that the users actually get the messages that are sent to, because you know nowadays spam filtering is so heavy that many messages sometimes do not get to the users. And the Mandrill, actually MailChimp has this user infrastructure around the world on which they can send emails very quickly, and they have it's structured that it can guarantee a higher deliverability of your messages. For instance, they have this possibility to set up SPF and DKIM DNS records. So when the messages are sent by MailChimp, actually Mandrill, they will be recognized as valid from being sent from your domain, and not be confused with spam. And this is one of several features that is very important to assure the so-called deliverability. And the good news for PHP classes users, actually, the lately in PHP podcast Hangout listeners, is that they are giving away a special discount promotion code. If you go on the Mandrill site that I'm showing here, they can sign up and use the promo code PHP classes, and then they can get 50,000 free transaction emails for the first 6 months, and that's a lot, at least for sites that are not using huge volumes of email, which is, I think, the majority of the sites. Cesar, did you know about this Montreal service by MailChimp?
But I know about the company mainly because of emails like a long time ago. I don't remember why, but I need it, and I was looking at the prices, and they are way cheaper than even. I think the only cheaper way is if you do it yourself through Amazon, but that's a lot of time. So I think back then I used MailChimp, so that was the best alternative by far. Like, if I remember correctly, the time was 10%, no, 10 times cheaper than, so that was a lot. Um their email, no, about their blog post, they wrote a very interesting post that why they use and why people they think
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was built in
Share
PHP that
again. So, okay, this is the post, right? It's already from 2010, but you told me about this. It's quite interesting. But what were you going to say about it?
it got mainstream in Twitter a couple of days ago, so I read it like a couple of days ago, and I was fascinated because it's a huge service and it's built in PHP, and it mentioned that they got some interviews to hire people, and people they were saying that they cannot believe that it was built in PHP. So just to mention that fact that plugin is written in, at least their website is built with PHP. So just
Right.
that fact as so.
Website. From the article it says they also deal with the mail deliveries and the mail bouncing, handling, and tracking of message opening, and all the process is done in PHP. And they said actually they developed their own framework optimized for their purposes, and it's great. Personally, I also have developed a mass mailing system that I needed to implement to send the newsletters for PHP classes. Nowadays, well, the site has reached practically 1.3 million registered users, but those that get the newsletters are over 400,000, and all that is done in PHP. And what they say here, and I totally agree, is that the language does not matter so much because it's not the bottleneck. The bottleneck of um, these high performance, high volume operations is often the network, because messages have to travel the network. But if you just view the messages in your local mail server, the actual mail server is what will take the task that takes more time. And so actually delivering messages to many thousands of users, they actually mentioned 30 million users, and this was already in 2010. It's actually a lot, and it doesn't really matter if it is done in PHP or not, because as I said, it's not the bottleneck. And it's great that they share that with the world, because, as you mentioned, there's a certain prejudice from people that do not like so much the PHP language because they prefer some other language, probably Ruby or Python or Java or .NET or something else, and they are just they just try to badmouth PHP just because it's not their favorite language, but it's a language that is built many large sites, and they are making lots of money using PHP. So, what exactly are they complaining about just because it's not their favorite language? And but it was great that you mentioned it. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
complement with some other comments.
Yeah.
Well, well, if you don't have any other comments, that's fine. Just want to reinforce again, if you want to use Mandrill as PHP classes user, just use the PHP classes promo code when you sign up to Mandrill, and you can benefit from this promotion. So I would like to thank Mandrill for their sponsorship. And now we are going to move on with our regular topics. And first, I would like to mention something that is somewhat unusual, which is a message that I got from a user of the PHP classes site that calls himself just Jeremy. And he's actually from the United States, a town named Buxton, North Dakota. And he emailed me just a few weeks ago telling me that the PHP classes newsletter saved his life. And what? How come new PHP classes newsletters can save lives now? And I thought it was actually uh, uh, it was probably a joke. Maybe somebody was struggling to unsubscribe from the newsletters, and that happens once in a while. Sometimes people register going to an address and are not able to unsubscribe because they send emails with a different address. So maybe I was having some difficulty to unsubscribe, but no, it was actually true. He even sent me some pictures of his heart condition, and I'm not sure even if I got it right. But when he got newsletters from PHP site, his mobile phone just ring, different sound, and that sort of kept him awake. I didn't fully got what happened, but it seems that it helped him to get over a heart attack or some heart condition that he had. Well, okay. I'm glad that PHP Classes newsletter saved his life, and I'm even gladder that he's well now. And that's one unexpected purpose of PHP Classes newsletters, and that's great that now we are able to recognize a better purpose for newsletters other than providing the information that they send to users. And given that, now let's actually talk about PHP topics, starting from what, um, what is the latest versions here. Okay. So, as usual, we had several releases of PHP 5.4, 5.5, and 5.6. They are just mostly maintenance bug fixes, not a big deal. It's something that we always mention, but as usual, there were some bugs that were fixed. And I do not see anything special. Cesar, did you notice anything special on these latest releases?
I see mainly bug fixes like memory, like two internal, at least in 5.4, 5.6. A few boxes.
Yeah, I don't think they are
Mm,
really
yeah,
important.
yeah. It worth having always the latest version of the PHP branch you are using. So, but I see some particularly. I'm not using like figs in the Postgres P driver. I don't use Postgres, so that bug doesn't affect me. But it's always nice to have the latest version of PHP.
Well, what I mean is not that bug fixes are not important, just that the bug fixes are not nothing unusual. Of course, bug fixes are important, at least for
Yeah,
these features.
my my point is that it's that you shouldn't have problems with those. If you do, you can fix it by just upgrading your PHP.
Yeah. Okay, so given that, let's move on to the next topic. And we're going to start talking about some of the latest proposals. There was one proposal to remove PHP 4 constructors, at least the way they were expressed for PHP 4. Then in PHP 5 there was a new alternative way to implement them, and say they want to remove them. Well, I'm not sure if this is really important to remove them, but I think they just want people to use just a simple style of constructors. That's what I
Yeah,
get from this.
if there is any technical, they should implement it because it's really old stuff. But I'm looking at the description, and they say they want to do it because some developers has some unusual method that means that some people got used to this kind of constructor, so they want to force them to relearn something else. If there is any like benefits, like it will run fine, but change it just because they want to change it, I don't see any benefit. However, they mention a few things like I don't remember if it was in this proposal or in the other, like if you are inside a namespace, which namespace will only run in PHP 5, I believe, no 3. So and newer versions, of course, that it treats like methods with the same name as the class, that it should be treated just like another method. That could make sense, but I like things that work always the same, things that work differently under some circumstances that will make bug hunting a little bit more difficult, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, this is just to force people that are using code that used to be compatible with PHP 4 to move on. Anyway, if they are using namespaces, you certainly are using the PHP 5 style of constructors. So I guess it won't be a big deal except for very old code that used to be compatible with PHP 4. Okay,
Yeah,
moving on.
particularly Yeah, particularly I do have problems like and I create like a method that has the same class name, and that's a constructor, and I got random behavior, but that's my problem. I see these as harmless, but I don't know why somebody would like to do it, but it's harmless the way I see it.
Well, in the worst case, some people will not bother to upgrade to PHP 7 if they have too many classes to change the constructors and don't want to go through the trouble. But that's probably not the worst type of
Yeah.
maintenance that you need to do in your code to deal with this change. And the plan is to make it deprecated for PHP 5.7 and then they remove it for PHP 7. So moving on, the next proposal they have here is about having default constructors. And the idea is to, for instance, for classes that don't have constructors, I mean parent classes that don't have constructors, if the column parent colon construct, it will do nothing. As before, it would probably throw an exception, right? Or
It's a fatal error as you attempt to call a method that does not exist.
yeah, exactly. Well, this probably will silence some warnings, but I don't see much code that probably uh, um would benefit of this change, but maybe the proponent has a lot more code that would be affected by this benefit. So moving on,
Yeah.
the next topic is about another
Yeah.
RFC, a proposal to implement what they call the Unicode code point escape syntax. This is to represent Unicode characters in strings. The idea would be \u, then curly braces defining the code, uh, the Unicode character that you want to insert there. And well, I think this is. I'm not sure if this is meant for all PHP strings or maybe strings for the the UString class that they are planning to implement to support Unicode in PHP 7. Uh, Cesar, did you follow this proposal? Do you think it is interesting, or maybe it will find some issues?
Uh, I don't. I don't. But apparently, it will allow you to just use within any string, and it will compile to UTF-8 time. So that's the way I see it. So I'm reading really quick now.
Yeah.
Mm,
Well, actually, you mentioned in the
it doesn't
last
say
podcast.
anything.
Um, yeah, I think this is for arbitrary strings. So, um, I don't know. I think it is when you insert these sequences, it will insert the bytes for the equivalent UTF-8 uh, encoding of that character. I think that's the plan.
It seems so.
So
It seems so, but
it doesn't matter if you are
uh,
using the extension, that eventual proposal or the UString class, which is still a proposal, by the way, not really something that is approved, I think. And well, uh, this is to make the code more probably readable, in even if you're viewing it in uh, editor that does not really support insertions of characters in UTF. You just use this escape sequence and it will be represented there, the character. So I think this is probably useful for those that need to have a lot of non-ASCII strings, and they want to make the code as portable as possible. Okay, so moving on, the next proposal, which is not really a big proposal, it's just a major, I mean, a bump in the version of the Zen engine that is being used in PHP, actually PHP 7 branch. So far they've been calling it Zen Engine 2, but there are many changes that are being proposed, so they thought it would be interesting to just bump the version. This is not really a feature, it's just version numbering bumping. I don't know if it's that important. Cesar, did you look into this topic, or do you think it is there are some other issues that I'm missing?
I'm not following what's new on the version. However, once Facebook announced that HHBVM, which is their Facebook version, will run as PHP does. Like there is no pre-compilation process to generate C++. So and send the improvements on their virtual machine. I don't know which one are included. I even saw one experiment that they included some JIT support, which is just which will generate internal code that will be executed directly over your CPU, thus improving the runtime of the language. So I don't know which improvements are there, but probably some of those, which is very exciting because having competition will lead PHP.
Yeah. Well, for PHP 7 there will be lots of great improvements, but this is just a thing internal to the official PHP implementation that is based on Zen engine. I guess it won't affect in any form the HHVM implementation of PHP because it is not on top of Zen engine, of course. So the next topic, just a brief mention about a few proposals that were finally approved. They are, well, I think they are, there's nothing really surprising, it's just they were approved, but those people that were expected to be approved, I'm sure they will be happy that it's finally confirmed that it will be something part of PHP 7. In this case, we are looking at the return type declarations. It's like a type hinting for declaring the types of values that will be returned for the functions. So if your function returns values that are not of the specified type, you can grab those errors and fix your code because you are probably having a bug. Um, so this will help certainly people to make more robust code, at least the way I think. What do you think?
I think the idea is good. Like the same with the parameters. Like I was heard once one conversation with the internals on one of the conferences, and the reason why we have like types in the parameter is because if you expect one string and and if you expect one object and you send a string, then you would have a error at some point. So they wanted to prevent that ahead of time. If you expect an object foo that has certain methods, and you send another type, then when you attempt to call those methods, you would end up having a fatal error. So they wanted to following the same principle. Certain type, say a certain object of a type user, and if you return a animal, you would have problems outside, and those are problems that could be detected at compile time. So there are uh, following that approach. In my opinion, it should be optional. Say, as Perl has the mode strict, so and JavaScript does have. So if you say I want to run this piece of code in mode strict, it should check all those things. And if you don't care, then you don't add it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, the point here is that
It should be
people,
optional.
right, I think people have many function calls that probably think, oh, checking the return type of the value may cause a certain overhead. And so if you think that hurts your performance, you just can disable it because um, it's optional, and that's the purpose of having this proposal the way it has gone, not mandatory like you have in languages like Java and other that are strong typing languages. And another proposal that was also approved is about
Yeah,
57
but the
timeline.
thing about this proposal seems that they voted because everything was working. Like the thing is that you need to send a proposal with working code, and apparently it was working, and then they found a bug and they cancel it.
Yeah,
That's so it just seems something that they did it wrong, and then they'll fix it and they'll will reopen for votes.
right. Well, I was wondering if it is something that you could disable at runtime, or the type hinting is, I mean, the type checking is always done as long as you have.
Yeah, I think and the they are I think the check-in is there if you define it. If you don't define it, it shouldn't check for anything. So at the end, it's optional.
Right. Well, what I was thinking, maybe we could have it enabled in the development environment and then disable it in production. But in that case, um, there could be an option to implement that. Well, I don't know. I think people that want to have type checking also do not want to have the code running in error in production. Probably it's better to throw an exception or whatever than just have it running without being in performance with the type declaration. Okay, as I was saying, now moving on to another proposal that was also approved. We mentioned it last month. It's the P7 timeline, which basically says what matters for most people is that uh, a final release of PHP 7 will happen in mid-October. Just there, a comment here, subject to quality, which means that they will try to at least squeeze as much bugs as possible that they know that they exist, that probably are failing the tests, and but that's something that always happens. But what they mean here is that they will probably um, delay this release if they find that there are so many bugs, many tests failing by the time they reach this date. At least that's the way I see it. Did you follow this discussion at the timeline?
No, I did not. I was busy.
Yeah,
But yeah, I usually follow them, and more importantly, when they release something, I fetch it, I run the test on my computer, so I send reports if something is not working as expected. But I'm not following those discussions.
yeah, well, there's not really much to say here. It's just to confirm that there was a vote and the proposal was approved for this timeline. It's always um, something that they'll try to actually match that the proposal times, but I think it's I think it's feasible to actually.
I hope so. Like, it's for the benefits of the community. Like, if they can keep at that pace, that would be amazing, indeed.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that uh, if there will be a delay, probably it's not going to be a big deal. But okay, let's move on to the next topic. In this case, it's something that is not settled. Actually, they restarted a discussion about having built-in support for annotation in PHP 7. Because there were several proposals before, several proposals related with annotations, like three. And well, there are many people, many projects that are using their annotation support implemented in their own PHP code. I'm not sure if it is that important to have it as a built-in feature in the language, but it's something that that are big fans of annotation want to push it. They are trying to have it their way, and I don't know if it is going to pass because uh,
Yeah,
I don't know if it is even a feature that you need to have at runtime. I mean, in production code.
yeah. I wrote my like I have a bunch of projects. And I'm using a lot of annotations. I use pretty much whatever I can, but I have a different usage basically because I wrote my compiler, so I have full control of how it does. I don't use annotations in at runtime, but rather I walk through a set of files. I read annotations, and so I use annotation to generate some PHP code. For instance, I have a class which will discover what methods should be treated as a action for some URL pattern. But I don't do that at runtime because all the benefits that I get is that I could read easily an annotation and say, hey, this is a method. Oh, okay, I will record this method is located in this path. I need to load it and call it when this URL happens. But I don't see what is going to be the benefits if that class or method is not loaded into memory. Because the main problem is not really a problem from a point of view. It's a benefit is that PHP leaves like as your request is not a web server. One request comes in, then the request is out and everything is gone. So it's a blessing actually, because you don't have like memory leaks or anything like that. And if you do things wrong, that will be cleaned up when your request is gone.
Yeah.
So I don't see any benefit really of having it at runtime. uh, I know some people who claim there will be a lot of benefits for dependency injection. I don't know really, but more changes into the language could be. But the thing is that people propose things, but somebody has to do it.
Yeah, right. Well, somebody has to do it. Probably is not a big uh, deal because um, people that are sending these proposals are so persistent that they probably would come up with the necessary code when the if one of these proposals would be approved. Well, there is still a discussion going on. I'm not sure if it's already ended. Um, well, I think they discussed it for a while in the beginning uh, of November, and then they stopped. But well, if there will be an implementation of annotations in PHP 7 or not, we don't know yet. Maybe they'll come back to this subject later. We have to wait and see. Um, I think whoever is using annotations already built their own parser, so there won't be a big benefit to have the feature built in. Probably it will be faster, but it's not the kind of thing that you would use at runtime, so it probably won't make a difference in terms of the performance of a real application in production. I mean. So let's wait and see if there will be yet another episode about the annotations in PHP uh, so far. So moving on to another topic. Now I'd like to comment a very interesting article by Anthony Ferrara. Um, Actually, he has been saying a quite uh, uh, quite interesting number of very good articles, very technical, very in-depth, and because he is well aware how PHP works and how it could be better somehow. And this time he commented about speed improvement that was implemented in the Composer tool that is used to install packages. And I heard about this improvement, but I did not actually check what was the improvement. And in practice, it was quite a simple thing. It was basically to disable garbage collection. Well, for those that are not familiar with garbage collection is a process of freeing memory that is no longer used, probably because it was used by certain variables, and those variables are no longer used because they're probably used inside of a function, and the function exited, so the variables are no longer used. But the, the values that were stored in the variables were taking some memory, and PHP uses a process of reference counting to determine if a certain value was uh, used and no longer being used by any part of the code. The respective memory can be free. Um, and in this case, well, I'm trying to interpret it. This, I hope I'm being accurate. Uh, I'm not fully sure because this is a complex matter, but what I understood, what they mentioned here is that Composer tool there's a lot of classes with objects that store references to other objects, or to have variables that point to other objects of other classes, and this eventually would cause what is called cyclical references, so reference objects that then they reference back the original object. And when this happens, there is a cyclical reference that prevents the memory of those objects to be free unless more explicit. And the garbage collection process that is implemented, you can detect these cyclic references, so you don't get there in an infinite loop trying to figure certain references was already checked or not for. And the problem is that all this process takes time. We are checking certain references are being freed and they are not free. Every time you execute the Gaussian collection process, it will take some time. And this will eventually start hurting the performance of the PHP code, because the garbage collection process runs periodically, and so usually you run Composer and call some packages and edit. Bring the memory of this object references probably would not be a great benefit. Maybe it would reduce the use of memory, because you release the memory you can use for other variables in the future. But it seems that just disabling garbage collection it would cause a great speed improvement. Actually, it was not speed improvement, it's just a reduction of something that probably was not so necessary. I don't know, this is at least my interpretation. Cesar, what is your interpretation of this?
You gain performance, true, but you disable the garbage collector. That means that if your processor, it will consume more RAM. And what the circular reference issue is all about is that to release the memory of an object, they have to have the reference count to 0. And they are not going to have to 0 because they have one reference to one object that just has one reference, which is my object back. So they are both like this. They depend on each other, but not in any external object. So you should really design better software for status, and then do not create a billion objects if you don't have to. That's a way better approach, because
Exactly.
yeah, because if you look at the blog post, they say, like, the short answer is don't do it. You shouldn't do it, and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think this is this so-called speed improvement was more a shortcut to avoid spending time changing the programming style. Um, I know. Actually, I looked once at the composer code, and I can see they store reference to objects in variables, lots of them, and pass objects as parameters to functions, and then do something inside them and create more references to them. And the question is this really necessary, or is it just a programming style that probably people got maybe influenced by what they learn in college, probably in Java. Java programmers like to show objects to everything. Everything is an object. Sometimes you really do not need to have everything in object. And there is that those principles they call solid. One of them is simple responsibility, which means that one class is supposed to do one thing and one thing only. That leads to lots of classes just to do one thing only. And just because Martin Fowler or whoever defined the solid principles said so, it does not mean that we should follow that as a religion. It has consequences, and um, if you do not need as many classes as you have been created because you follow this similar responsibility principle.
Yeah.
Solid,
There is university
and
and there is real life.
make
That is the
it
thing.
better. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just said that there is the university and there is the real life, and in real life,
That,
performance matters a lot.
yes, well, sometimes think people go to college, and it's great to go to college to learn programming or whatever, but sometimes they learn certain principles, but they do not have a good overview of the consequences. And all these consequences take objects for every little thing that you have in your project. Uh, as consequences. In this case, not a bad. It's not really the problem. The problem is not having many objects. The problem is having objects that reference objects. Uh, you have to make many of those objects inside of your application. You have consequences of the performance. So the solution for the problem, as Anthony mentioned, was not really to disable garbage collection. It was just a shortcut for now. The solution is rethink your programming style. Personally, I avoid to create classes just because uh, I would be separating responsibilities. Um, and that also using less classes, which will be creating less objects. And this really garbage collection process to go through many objects, references to check their reference counting. And I think this is the main lesson that you can learn from this. So the solution is not to disable garbage collection, it's to rethink your programming style. Well, at least that's my conclusion. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I think a shifting of how to think, how to solve problems, because a garbage collector is really good. Like everyone has it, and if I follow one simple rule, if Google does it, it's probably good. So Node.js and the V8 has, uh, so it's really good. So uh, otherwise, you should never free memory and just wait until your program dies. That's probably what this whole optimization is all about. And the most important thing is that most in the composer case, most of the slowness comes from the network. I believe that they behave like subversion, that they need a central server and they need to shift that thinking and start operating locally and just synchronizing changes like deltas. I have these versions. What do your server have and things like that. It should really
Yeah.
improve to do less network operations, and that will be much faster than than any improvement that you can do in terms of the language, because because PHP is fast. Like it just execute codes in the CPU, it'll be fast. But the network, that is as low always because it depends on many things.
Yeah. Right. And regarding this article, it mentions composer, and I would like to mention something related. I guess already got that question a couple of times. Well, since PHP classes supports installing packages from its own composer repository, so it acts as a composer repository. You can install packages from PHP classes as a composer repository. You can use composer. And for people that do not know how to set up the composer configuration, uh, the site shows how you can start an initial configuration. And what appears there, rather than just telling you, just tell it to be abstract, but share screen here. Well, for instance, any package here that supports, well, practically all packages can be installed with here you would go to the download page and there's this button that says install with Compose. Also here, and it shows here a sample Composer JSON that you can use to put in your project. And there is this option here at the end that says packages that equal false. And this is option to Composer. What this means that since you are downloading just this package from your repository, in this case from PHP classes, you won't need any other packages, so you don't need to download packages from packages. Because if you download packages from packages, you will need to download the whole repository definition. And that takes a lot of time. And processing the dependencies is a thing that was making packages, composers slow. And there are some people that say, oh, why are you suggesting to disable packages? Well, nothing against packages as because it is slow. And if you can disable it because you do not need packages in that repository, it's better because it will be faster. And and so I would just like to make clear that nothing against packages because all packages is a competitor repository. You see that way, I don't see it that way, but whatever you see, the reason this option is here has nothing to do with perception recognition. By all means, I'm not discouraging people to use packages. I'm just putting it here because in this sample, there is only one package being used, so no package will be used. The packages and well, that's I want to clarify with this. Anyway, we have practically reached the end of this podcast. Before we leave, I'd like to thank Mailchimp actually for their sponsorship of Andrea. They've been nice to sponsor this podcast. And I also would like to mention that other companies that would like to sponsor this podcast or post sponsor blog articles because it's blog very that is now a company sponsorship site also. I'll put links to the show notes and put the address to download sponsorship order sponsorship like they should do and have benefit from the exposure of the blog and this podcast. For instance, when you post an article to the Moses blog, over 400,000 users are multiplied by email. And this article without reading. So it's a good opportunity for companies to get it. So once again, thank you very much for the sponsorship. I'm sure each because sites really will appreciate the promo code discount they are offering. Use each promo code and benefit from then other than that, I'll also like to thank you again, Cesar, for coming. I know you are very, very busy. It's kind of a miracle to get you here and on the Hangout. It's always great to have your insights because you have a great knowledge about PHP internals, level programming, uh, not common among PHP developers, but only our Cesar others. One and
Thanks.
only the winner of the Innovation Award of the year a couple of years, right?
Yeah, it was a couple of years, so that means that next year I need to submit more packages. And
Yeah,
I guess that we see each other next year. I guess in the next podcast.
yeah. I'll hope you can come again. I'll certainly try to video so you can come. About 1 month. I'll be in Portugal. I'm doing Christmas and New Year over there, and probably I don't know if you are with me recording from there or not, but I'll keep you posted. Let's see how this goes. So
I
thank you again for coming.
Okay. At any time, just let me know and I'll be here.
Okay, thank you again.
Bye
Bye.
bye.